So last week I posted a video talking about how the 9 to 5 is a scam, how it's a trap that most of us get stuck in for pretty much our whole life, and we finally get to retire at 70 years old, and by that point we're not in the best condition to do the things that we want to do. And this video, what I found interesting was the comment section. The amount of people that agreed with the video and the amount of people that disagreed with what I was saying. Some people found it motivating. They left comments like talking about how they worked 10, 20, 30 years and they wish they took a risk and started their own business, how they could see that there's a different path, but they were too scared to take that route. You have some people who can't comprehend how you can earn money without having a job, how you can't have an income without being an employee, which I found interesting. And then you get the people who love their job, the people who work 40, 50, 60 hours a week. They have their company car, they get their 4-week holiday, and there's nothing wrong with that. If you love your job, fine. Some people like the security, the safety, the comfort of a full-time job and someone else paying your salary. And that's absolutely fine. But this video was more aimed at the people who can see that there's a different path, who don't want to trade their time for money anymore. They want to be in control of their own life and to earn as much money as they want, to have as much free time as they want. And that's what building your own business will give you eventually. I'm not saying it's going to be easy. I'm not saying you get that straight away. You do have to sacrifice a little bit to be able to be in a position that's like that. But like with anything, right? If you work a full-time job, the sacrifice is trading your time for money and accepting that for 40 hours of the week, you're owned by your boss, by your company. And that is what I didn't want for myself, which is why I decided to start learning how to build my businesses over the last 5 years. But the one comment that stood out to me in these comment sections was the people that kept talking about failure, how most businesses fail. 9 out of 10 businesses fail. My friend built a business and it failed. And I wanted to create this video talking about that because failure is part of life. This isn't really taught in schools because when you do an exam and you fail, it's kind of seen as a negative. But in real life, in business, failure is a good thing because it means you're trying. It means you're testing things that you haven't done before. And if you can learn how to recover from your failures, if you can learn how to overcome these failures, how to adapt and come back better, then this is how we evolve. So I want you to stop seeing failure as a bad thing. I failed multiple businesses over the last 5 years, 8 businesses in fact, out of my 10 or 11 that I've built now. And this is just the nature of business. But what I wanted to clarify was most businesses don't fail for reasons that we think they fail. It's usually a lot more complex than that. Most people think businesses fail because of the actual business itself, which is true in some cases. Like, don't get me wrong, if you build a business, if you tried to start a newspaper business, for example, in 2026, obviously that's not going to go well because newspapers are not a thing anymore. People do not read them as much. So you're going to have a very difficult time trying to build a newspaper business. So we need to get with the times. We need to make sure that we are building a business that's in a big enough opportunity. So for example, right now, the biggest opportunities are social media, AI, anything to do with selling online. Like, these are huge opportunities and they give you a lot higher success rate when it comes to building these. So that's the first reason that most people fail, is they just choose the wrong model. And I see this all the time. People are trying to start businesses that they have no idea about in a market that is a dying market, and they're up against big competition from people that have been in this niche or market for many decades. So you're never going to be able to compete unless you've got a very deep pocket. The other reason people fail is they just simply give up too soon. And I see this time and time again with my community. I've got over 1,000 members and I see this quite a lot, where people assume that the business is going to be easy to build. They get motivated, they get excited about it. They do all the right things for the first few months, and then they realize it's actually a lot harder than they thought. And this is where people just tend to give up too early. And I see this all the time. And I've even fallen for this many times. But when the business gets hard, that's when the mindset needs to kick in. That's when we need to realize that this is part of the process. Part of the process is the business becoming difficult and learning how to overcome those difficulties. So that's the second reason I see people fail. They just simply give up too early, way too early. If you stick at it long enough and you never quit, then you will get good at the business. As simple as that. The third reason is they idea hop. And I've done this before, where you see an opportunity and you think the grass is greener, and you kind of just give up and switch ideas, thinking that it's going to be easier, faster, or just better in general. And this, for the most part, doesn't work. I think it's easy to think this. Like, I've had e-com stores in the past where I've been trying to sell a product, hasn't really been selling well, so I thought, oh, maybe if I just switch product, switch brand, this looks like an easier product because I saw someone on YouTube selling this product, so maybe if I give it a go, then it's going to work. But from my own experience, it's not quite that simple, and you're basically starting the whole journey from square one because you're giving up on the last one, right? So you're basically starting all over again. So that's the third reason. The fourth reason is just lack of skills. It's the lack of knowledge, and this is the main reason for me why I failed so many businesses, because I just wasn't good enough at the skills that made up the business model. So for example, let's say we're building, again, an e-commerce store or some sort of product that we're selling online. The reason I failed in the past was because I wasn't very good at building websites. They looked awful, they weren't very high quality, and for the customer landing on that website, they would have never have trusted the brand. The product photography wasn't great. I didn't really know how to market, how to use social media. So the skills that made up the business model, I wasn't good enough at the time. I failed to build the business because of my own lack of knowledge, skills, and experience. And that just comes with time, and that comes, again, with failure. If we fail enough times, then we're going to continually get good at the skills needed to build the business. So I want you to stop seeing failure as a bad thing, because I don't think it is. Again, if you're failing, it means you're doing something right. You're testing things that you haven't done before. And that means that every failure you make, you're going to come back a little bit better each time. And every time you come back better, you're going to have more skills, more experience, and that is going to lead into the business becoming successful. So for all those people in my comment section, stop seeing failure as a bad thing and start trying to fail as much as possible. Alex Hormozi calls it ignorance tax, because if your skill is up here and you need to learn how to do the skill, well, you need to just accept that you're going to have to fail over and over again until you can pay down that tax. And I think that's a really good analogy for seeing failure as tax that you can just pay down rather than seeing it as a bad thing. So I hope this video helps. If anyone wants to watch my free training that I've got in my free community, then I'll put the link in the description. I'd recommend you do, because this will teach you how to build these businesses. It will teach you how to apply this into your own life, how you can start generating an income online and slowly start working towards escaping the 9-to-5 rat race. Most of us do not want to do this for a whole life. For me, I worked as an engineer for 12 years, and the last 4 or 5 years were really painful because I just didn't enjoy working there. I think as soon as you make a little bit of money for yourself online, your whole mindset changes, because you see what's possible. You see the potential of making money off your own back rather than relying on someone else to pay your bills for you. And that thing I said at the start about your job being secure, I don't believe it is anymore. The amount of people that I know around me that have been made redundant recently, because we're moving into a different world. AI has come in, it's replacing a lot of jobs. It already is replacing a lot of jobs. And I think as a byproduct of that, a lot of people are going to get made redundant, because if you don't need a member of staff to do this job anymore, if you can replace that role with an AI robot or some sort of AI tool, well, what would you rather pay? A 30 grand a year salary, or a tool that probably costs you like a couple £100 a month? Well, most businesses are going to see the benefit of switching over to AI, which means there's going to be a lot more redundancies coming. So the job that you thought was once secure may not be for forever. In the next few years, things could really change. Not for all jobs, obviously, but more for jobs like admin-based jobs, repetitive jobs that an AI or a computer could easily do. Some jobs will be secure still for the foreseeable future, but even those will eventually be replaced. So right now it's a perfect opportunity to start learning some skills, to start building your own income generating asset and working towards escaping that system that we're all pushed into. So again, if you want to join the free community, I'll put the link in the description. If you want to work with me more closely, I'll put that link in the description as well. But thank you for watching, guys, and I will see you in the next one.